Good morning. Everybody have coffee and breakfast? Welcome to the Mayor and Council Breakfast. My name is Rob Millar, and I'm the acting Economic Development Director. We're so glad you're here this morning. Did anybody walk in this morning and feel that crisp fall air and think we survived and thrived another summer? Now, there's some people here from Ohio and New York that have no idea what we're talking about because we're Arizonans, but we know what we're talking about. We have a lot of things to cover this morning, but first I want to introduce some elected officials we have in the audience with us. Representative Kavanaugh. Mayor Jim Lane, who you'll be hearing from in a few minutes. Vice Mayor Linda Milhaven, who you'll also be hearing from. Councilwoman Suzanne Clapp. Councilmember Virginia Cordy. Councilwoman Kathy Littlefield. Councilman Guy Phillips couldn't be here today, but he sends his regards. Councilwoman Solange Whitehead. And I believe City Manager Jim Thompson is here somewhere as well. So if you're enjoying today's breakfast, we have some very special people we need to thank for that, because this entire event was funded by our sponsors. So we'd like to thank our sponsors to ASU, Scottsdale IDA, Scottsdale Firefighters Association, SRP, Caliber, and Ryan Companies. Can we give them a round of applause? Before I turn it over to Mayor Lane, I want to quickly talk with you about today's topic. We have some exciting updates relevant to today's conversation because talent is driving company decisions to expand and relocate, not just to Scottsdale, but pretty much any market. And talent, by the way, is a new term. If you haven't heard it in the past few years, it's replaced the words labor and workforce. And that may seem like a subtle change, but it's been very intentional because talent speaks to highly educated and highly skilled workforce. Technology is in part driving this change, not entirely, and you'll hear from our keynote speaker here in a little bit about why that is happening. But literally, this may sound like a bold statement, literally every company on the planet has technology built into their platform in some way, whether that be customer or transactional. It's built into their platform. In the not so distant past, company decisions to look at our market to expand or relocate were based on access to real estate, cost of real estate, quality of life, taxes, those types of things that have been traditional staples in evaluating markets. But now companies will not even look at our market and won't even talk with us until they're assured that they have access to talent. In other words, the old adage, if you build it and they will come, and location, location, location has been replaced by talent, talent, talent. In Scottsdale, we recognized this pivotal switch a few years ago, and we've been taking very deliberate steps to ensure that we are driving talent to our community. In January of this year, you probably noticed that Scottsdale was named the #1 city in the country to get a job. This designation validated something we already knew, and it's one of those things that we could have said that's a nice designation and moved on, but we decided to capitalize on that in a very big way. Within literally minutes of that designation, we went out and acquired Scottsdale.Jobs URL, and that URL provided a very clear and specific way to drive prospective employees in our market to our job board. It was our goal to ensure that anybody that would listen to us knew that Scottsdale was the place to get a job. And we've been a little relentless in that, and I'm going to talk to you about why we're thinking that's paying off. And you also may have noticed that our job campaign went to the skies recently with our Scottsdale.Jobs banners over Scottsdale Road. There are many, many initiatives that go into a jobs campaign, and we're excited to let you know the results are paying off. There are currently more than 350 job listings on our job board, 61 companies, and we've had 12,000 unique hits on our website in just the last year and a half. 300 job seekers have signed up to receive monthly updates of job openings that are opening up just in Scottsdale. And here's the really exciting news. Since we've launched these initiatives, traffic to our website has increased by over 200%. People are taking notice that Scottsdale is a great place to live and work and to get a job. We don't see the trend in jobs changing anytime soon, so you'll be seeing more initiatives unveiled in the near future about what we can do to continue to drive the talent conversation in Scottsdale. It's important to note that economic development in Scottsdale is a highly collaborative effort. We don't do it just on our own. And we could not do what we do without the guidance and the support of the City Council, City Manager, virtually every city department, and every one of you who serve as our economic development ambassadors. So thank you for what you do in making sure Scottsdale's economy remains strong. And lastly, I'd be remiss if I did not share with you that your Scottsdale, the City of Scottsdale Economic Development team, is small and mighty. We're a team of 5, and every day we transition between the public and the private sector seamlessly. We really live by the mantra of work hard and play hard, and I want to make sure we recognize them. And in fact, just last month in August, we took an opportunity to participate in a national selfie campaign to show our pride in our local government. And I think we have a picture up here of us. You can barely see it. We did not win the national selfie contest, but we did get the national award for the best use of props. So I guess props to us for that. And I wasn't going to share this with you today, but I felt inclined when I was walking up here that we had a little bit of an incident when we were taking this picture, and I think we captured it on video. Did we have that?
Scottsdale Economic Development Team. What are you doing playing in the fountain? Didn't you see the sign?
But Mayor, we chose Scottsdale. It just goes to prove the mayor is everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Mayor Lane, our biggest economic development champion, to the stage.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's wonderful to have you all here. You know, I look forward to this event every year simply because it gives us an opportunity really to focus on what's very, very important to all of us here in our community, and that's our economy, and share some really positive news, generally always positive news. That's not to say that we have 100%, but nevertheless, that's what we're here to talk about. But this is a great gathering, and we really are appreciative that our citizens and our business leaders have an interest in being here with us on this endeavor. And just a few weeks ago, in just the last few weeks, a number of I think, substantially important things have occurred. I got a note from Dr. Gray, Dr. Rick Gray, who is the new, well, relatively new, I suppose, President and CEO of Arizona Mayo. And he's telling me about a partnership that they've just gotten involved in with Google. And this is one to give them an advanced digital capabilities with virtual care and with the ability to have AI-enabled diagnostics. This is a big move in a community that has a great deal of dedication to technology. So this is a great working relationship with Google in the use of cloud computing, data analysis, machine learning, artificial intelligence to redefine healthcare delivery. And that's what it's about to do. So I want to congratulate Mayo for moving in this direction, and we hope to hear more about this actually in our December 7th Cure Corridor. They'll be participating in with us as well, but as that moves forward. Just last week, we welcomed Infosys and their innovation hub. It's one of 3 in the United States. It is labeled Infosys Phoenix, which is the reason I struggle with the name. But nevertheless, that is a real issue for us. But nevertheless, we understand that with Infosys actually has approximately 20 of these innovation hubs throughout the world. They actually come out of India. But in any case, we're one of 3 here in the United States, and we're glad to have them here. They are hugely involved with autonomous technologies, Internet of Things, of course, full-stack engineering, data science, and cybersecurity. It's a very forward-thinking and exciting new endeavor, having them here certainly. They are consultants and facilitators to take that type of technology to the application level for the businesses who consult and work with them. It's an amazing, I took a tour last week of the facility. It's amazing setup, and of course it's at SkySong, which is ASU Scottsdale's Technology and Innovation Center. So, and speaking of SkySong, I suppose I should also mention that earlier this year we welcomed IMNA Solutions, who relocated from Israel to SkySong. And interesting component there, they are one of, I think it is 7 now, of the 19 companies that have transferred from Israel to the Valley. They're right here in Scottsdale, 7 of those 19. But they started right away hiring local software developers and high-wage professionals. And IMNA Solutions is a secure data healthcare information platform, and the owners explained they made the decision to move based on our position, as they saw it, as a global leader in healthcare innovation. That really says an awful lot of some of the efforts we really have tried to work with in growing the healthcare sciences and the biotechnical and biosciences here in Scottsdale to much, really to much positive gain. And they reached out recently and told me that out of a record 4,000 nominations, they are being recognized as Tech Startup of the Year in at the 2019 International Business Awards. And that's fantastic, and we're glad they chose Scottsdale for all the right reasons. Of course, the air park is booming as usual. And those of you who have been around for a while know that the air park is the second largest employment center in the state of Arizona. And it's had certainly its times of a transition, really, in the kinds of businesses that are located there now. From some that were typically sort of maybe the majority anyway, toward the building industry and design of buildings and residents, to something that is a much bigger mix of a number of technology companies, and we have a number of them that are located up there. But one of the things that has developed more recently throughout Scottsdale, but here in the air park, and this is an indication, it's that we have recently had an announcement this week of the Axis Raintree project, which is new office space that will be completed this year. And that's meeting a demand that's in the air park. And that's good. It's an indication even further of its intensity of a working area for us. It was just announced also that Scottsdale is also the home of 3 of the fastest growing companies in the United States, including Bob Parsons Extreme Golf. All of this positive news is just from the last few weeks. And it would take me a long time, possibly the rest of the day really, to recap the entire year. And so, in consideration of everyone's time, the city's economic development team condensed it all in this short video on other measurable outcomes from the last year. Please watch the video. Now, I hope you all got that. There'll be a short quiz a little later on. But in any case, let me assure you, whether you saw it or whether you retained it, there's some fantastic stats in that really have a great reflection, not only where we are and how our economy has been rebuilt over the number of years, but how it has been strengthened and diversified in so many ways. And the stats actually demonstrate a lot more beyond what the obvious might be. Looking forward, we're delighted to be welcoming some much-needed Class A office space in Old Town, and some new hotels will come online, giving our downtown a new boost of tourism. Of course, you've all heard about Nationwide's project, and incidentally, I might just say that they're here with us as well today, and they've been a tremendous corporate citizen here in Scottsdale for many years, and of course, they now are building some great project a little bit north of where they were there on Gainey Ranch, of course, up near the 101 and Scottsdale Road, or Hayden. But in any case, you've heard about the Nationwide project, and they are moving full steam ahead, and I couldn't be more pleased with that. We're also getting close to some decisions on Museum Square project, which has been noted by most everyone as a very, very good project for the southwest quadrant of the downtown envelope, if you're familiar with the area where the Museum of the West is as well. Just a fantastic project. So that will be a major enhancement to that area of our downtown. And we're awaiting some new announcements for other terrific high-end projects across the city. But suffice it to say, Scottsdale continues to attract quality investment in a diversifying economy, which has long been a goal of mine and many of my council colleagues. This is in conjunction with Governor Ducey's successful statewide effort to make Arizona an attractive place for all businesses and an opportunity for all to participate in the new digital economy. Maricopa County, as many of you probably already know, is the fastest growing county in the nation. And we've placed ourselves well to benefit from that by attracting the highest quality of businesses and startups. We're going to hear another story about Scottsdale and why CEOs are choosing us in just a moment. But first, please let me welcome our next speaker to the podium. She is serving her third term as on council, a banker by profession, and she has also served as board chair for the Scottsdale Chamber as well as the Better Business Bureau. She spent her career understanding the needs of business owners and the importance of smart regulatory environment and entrepreneurial needs. Please help me in welcoming Councilwoman Linda Milhaven.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to introduce our keynote speaker this morning. As co-founder and CEO of General Assembly, he is a true pioneer in education and career transformation. Lately, businesses and individuals struggle to compete in the growing technological economy, and General Assembly has developed this solution. By providing training to those hoping to advance their career or companies looking to enrich their staff skills, General Assembly provides award-winning curriculums, both online and offline, designed to train the student in today's in-demand skills. He and his team have turned what began as a small working space in 2011 into a now global learning experience with campuses in 20 cities and more than 35,000 graduates worldwide. We are extremely excited to hear more about what they have in store, so please join me in welcoming General Assembly's co-founder and CEO, Jake Schwartz.
I'm on? Hello.
Check.
Check, check. I told Jake that we are a very informal community, and he took me very seriously. So I told him he should be right at home in Scottsdale. So welcome, Jake.
Thank you. So great to be here.
So Jake, tell us about your company and what do you do?
Well, maybe First off, can everyone hear me? I'm just okay, good. Hey, if the back is thumbs up, everybody's good. First off, it's so great to be here. I grew up actually coming to Scottsdale. I have a side of my family here. I climb Camelback every Thanksgiving. It's one of my favorite traditions. So it's such a great thing to get to be here for business. So what is GA? I'll maybe describe a little bit of the story about how GA started. Really some of the inspiration. So I grew up on the West Coast in Portland, not Phoenix. We traded heat for rain. And when I went to college, I was incredibly lucky and got into Yale and went back east. And of course, coming from Oregon, I thought that my ticket was punched. I was set for life. I was part of the club. And when I got out after college, realized that I had actually spent 4 years learning how to write a great paper, be really interesting at a cocktail party, but couldn't actually do anything real in the real world. I ended up then spending a lot of my 20s, kind of going from thing to thing, figuring stuff out. And, a lot of that time I was filled with anxiety, felt very lost and lonely. I didn't have family that I could lean on for connections in New York City. And I just thought the whole time, like, there must be a better way. There can't be that there's only 4 or 5 paths for ambitious college graduates to find their way in the world. And then, of course, so I went back to business school to try to push the reset button. And because I had gone through that experience, when I got to business school, I just kept looking at the price tag. And the price tag wasn't just the tuition, it was the time spent. And the fact that at the end of that whole journey of business school, what everybody was going, all my classmates were going to business school primarily to get a handful of interviews by companies that probably didn't care whether or not they learned a thing in business school. They cared that these were fine young people who were looking for a position, and it was a very nice, easy recruiting process for those companies to run. And I said, this seems dramatically inefficient. Then, of course, I graduated into the financial crisis. All my friends that thought they were going to be millionaires working in private equity and hedge funds had a very bumpy few years after that. And that's what really led to this idea of General Assembly. We were one of the first sort of co-working spaces in New York City at a time when tech was sort of trying to become something more in New York City. They had the big dot-com run up, but since then, New York was still just very, very small amounts of tech. And we felt something different happening, and we wanted to host that. And what we saw was a lot of companies with lots of great ideas. They could go out and raise money, but they couldn't find the people again and again and again. And we had this tiny little classroom. We said, wouldn't it be cool if we ran classes there? We thought startups would learn from other startups. And what we found very quickly was that those startups were very busy, and they didn't really want to take classes because they had to make their business, but that everybody in the New York community was clamoring to get in. We were selling out one-night classes day and night in this small space. And that was sort of when I realized and connected my own personal history to this, which was that, in a lot of ways, we have built an incredible education infrastructure all throughout this country. But over the last 50 years, we've sort of fallen into this trap of believing that education is a one-and-done model where you need to learn the most abstract, high-level types of frameworks and ideas, and then that should serve you for the rest of your life. And what it doesn't do is give you practical skills. And so we ended up taking all of this insight, we started building 3-month programs that help people get the skills and, more importantly, the jobs in the most in-demand digital skills. Things like web development, digital marketing, data science, UX design, product management. These were the things that not only startups, but companies of any size that were trying to compete in the digital world were desperate to find. There was nowhere to get them. In that one little classroom, we started running these courses. People started getting jobs. Our long-term rate of job placement out of our programs is around 95% within 180 days of graduating, which means that you invest your time and money in these programs and you will get a return, and not over the long term, over the short term. but of course over the long term as well. So with that model, we took that one classroom and expanded to 130 classrooms around the world. We're in places like London and Singapore and Sydney, as well as places like, Atlanta, DC, San Francisco and LA and Seattle and Denver. And now the greater Phoenix area, located in Old Town in Scottsdale. And that's what we're announcing here today, and we're very excited about that. Now, I will say, the other part of our story is that we always realize that one side of the equation is individuals looking to pursue work they love, to find a meaningful career, and that's always really important. But that doesn't really exist without employers. And the employment, and we really believe this is an ecosystem, or in Silicon Valley parlance, a two-sided marketplace. And we see ourselves as just our only job is to add value and decrease friction wherever we can. And so over the years, one of the other things that happened was big companies would come to us, Fortune 500, and said, we see what you're doing with individuals, and we love hiring those individuals, but we have a ton of people working inside our company that need to be reskilled or upskilled, because what we're finding is we can no longer just count on being able to hire the people we need and fire the people we don't need anymore. That model worked in a highly liquid labor marketplace where skills were somewhat fungible. It's not the case anymore. And so we have now grown a very sizable practice working with about half of the Fortune 500 around the world, helping them upskill existing employees, radically reskill some sets of employees so they can take part in this digital transformation, and then building custom talent pipelines from the outside world where they get exactly the talent they want and they need in a way that contributes to the overall talent ecosystem and is not just participating in a zero-sum poaching game. That led to us being acquired by the largest staffing company in the world, Adecco, which is based out of Switzerland but has a very large presence in the US, which allows us now to not just be playing in the world of learning and development or education, but also in the other way that people pay for skills and talent, which is through placement and recruiting and staffing, which we believe has an opportunity to be a much more value-added service than anybody thinks of it today. And so, with all of that backing and all that support and that global footprint, we're so excited to come to Phoenix. And Scottsdale, I should say.
Yes.
I know there's this rivalry. The greater Phoenix area, which is one of the fastest growing cities in the world, and I think probably the biggest city in the US, biggest metro area in the US that we have not yet come to. So we're very, very excited, and we think it's going to be a very, very successful campus.
So we are thrilled to have you here as well. So explain to us why it was that you chose Scottsdale to locate.
Well, I think there's a few things. I think we are partial to places that where the economic development climate sort of understands this talent ecosystem and the need to build that kind of a relationship between the business community and the talent population. And I think what we found in Scottsdale was a great mix of civic leaders, businesses, and frankly, nice location to set up our first campus. And so, location is always really important because people have to come to our campus, they have to come take classes, and we felt like this was such a perfect location. It's also the place I know best in this area, and so we're located in Old Town and in one of the successful co-working spaces here to start, and I think it's going to be a very, very successful partnership with the city and all the local businesses.
We think so too. So you told us a little bit in your opening about some of the trends you're seeing and how companies are adjusting to the changing needs and the talent. What might you add to that?
Well, I would say I think this is a theme that we've seen. I mean, when we started in New York City, New York was coming out of the financial crisis, which it was hit quite hard by because it was incredibly overexposed to financial services. And one of the big pushes, thank you to Mayor Bloomberg, who saw this and was part of this, was to see that we need to diversify into growing sectors of the future economy, not just rely on what worked in the past. And so there was an active economic development push at the time to grow the very nascent tech sector. And we were part of that. We actually received a small grant when we launched our campus in New York City. The city was very supportive in many, many ways. And I think that has sort of been a theme throughout our expansion around the world. When we went to Singapore, the Singaporean government were saying the exact same things that New York was saying in 2010. When we go to any market that we really see as promising, we see that sort of vision of a future that is not just dependent on a single industry or legacy industries, but is thinking about how do we build an entire two-sided market or an ecosystem around the new industries that we think are going to have sustained growth for the future. And I think it's one part of it is bringing businesses to the area. You can't do anything without that. You need the jobs. But we are seeing more and more and more that talent drives a lot of those business decisions. We hear it every day. And we just want to be part of that. We want to help reduce that as a barrier. I mean, you see that, that investment that New York really consciously made in 2010, 2009, 2011, it led to Amazon saying, oh, we want to go to New York. And even when we pull out of our big bid, which is, famously happened and which was very, very sad, Amazon is still coming there with thousands and thousands of jobs because they don't have a choice. And I think that may be the way to really think about it, is it's not just about bringing businesses, it's about bringing the infrastructure to make sure you have the sustained growth and talent, that it's never a choice whether or not you can be you need to be in Phoenix or the greater Phoenix area. You need to be here because if you want talent, this is one of the few places in the country that you can go get it.
Wonderful, wonderful. You talked a little bit about being an alternative to traditional educational institutions. Say more about how General Assembly relates to those.
Yeah, I mean, this is something, when we started, there was a big MOOC trend at the time, right? Everybody was talking about how online was going to completely transform education. You weren't going to have to go to class, and it was just going to disrupt everything. I'm glad to say 10 years later, I don't think any of that has really come to pass. And frankly, I tend to see that as a much longer journey. We never saw ourselves as replacing college. I think college is a very important part. It's still the major tool of social mobility that we have, and for people who want to have a better life, it's what they pursue. And until we have a clear, risk-adjusted, better alternative, I wouldn't recommend that. But I do think that we need to be very thoughtful about return on investment, risk and reward. And as we think about the amount of money that goes into not college, but the programs afterwards, or follow-on degrees, or other types of ways that people try to pursue that better life, that better career, that there's a lot of ways to make it a lot more efficient. And I think maybe even more than efficient is more relevant. The skills that we teach and we aim to teach are all things that didn't have a single program, formal degree program attached to them 15 years ago. 20 years ago. And so, this is why there's a shortage of UX designers. It's why there's a shortage of data scientists, is because, the traditional educational infrastructure, what makes it so great also makes it very hard for them to follow these micro trends that sometimes turn into mega trends. And so we want to fill that gap. We're not trying to replace professors. We're not trying to replace Econ 101. What we are trying to do is create a very, very efficient pathway for someone who wants to get that last mile of skills that earns them a seat in the new economy. So data science, right? I mean, those jobs are in high demand. Every company we talk to, it's not just data science, it's data analytics, it's data engineering. The entire world is transforming around these things. They are hungry for talent around the world, and they don't know where to find it. Those are the types of pain points that we love to go after. Because in those moments, you see demand on both sides. You see people who want to pursue those careers. They want to have a 30-year growth path. And you see companies hungry for that talent. That's where you want to be. And as a community, that's where you want to be too. Because those are the types of sort of, I would say, supply-demand imbalances that really create opportunities to innovate and push things forward.
So what you describe is more of a collaborative relationship me. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you imagine that collaboration? We have folks in the audience from ASU and Scottsdale Community College. Can you say more about
yeah.
what you imagine that collaboration would look like?
And I mean, I think this is a really special place in Arizona. I mean, ASU really, I think is second to none in terms of the level of innovation that has been pushed forward. And, I've spent a lot of time out here. A lot of my company was built on the connections made at the ASU GSV conference. I was at one of the first ones out at SkySong when it was very, very small. And the level of innovation is really important, and it is a big ecosystem. So, what we have seen is that we are a great complement to those kinds of institutions, because not every institution can do everything well. I love community colleges. I think community colleges is the most underrated, underutilized part of our national education infrastructure. But they have a lot of challenges. They're asked to do too much to too many parts of the community, and then held to too high of standards in terms of what you're going to be able to do with all of those different mandates. We have partnered with community colleges around the country to build bridge programs that helps people who never thought about a career in tech or even knew about a career in tech to start to build that pathway. And it really does take a village. It takes people learning the basic skills, getting those sort of minimum level degree requirements, but also then seeing that path to the other types of skills and doing it in a cost-effective way. And so, the partnerships we've formed with higher ed, all the different parts of higher ed, I think really speaks to the fact that we really see this as a continuum and part of an ecosystem. We're really not trying to replace anybody. I think that would be insane to take on, and I don't know if I'd want that job. It's going to be very, very hard. So, we see the overall community as partners. The alumni of ASU that probably make up a great portion of people, even maybe in this room, are our potential hiring partners, are our potential students, and we want to make sure that people have access to the types of careers that they want, to make sure that they can earn a great wage, and then, of course, give back to their alma maters.
Thank you. So where do you see General Assembly in the next 5 years?
Like I said earlier, our goal is to, first off, we want to be everywhere where there's a supply and demand imbalance around talent. And so that means a couple things. It means constantly looking for new geographies and new ways to serve more geographies. This push into the greater Phoenix area is really about us. It's really the lead story of a GA everywhere story. And you'll see a lot more of this, but none to quite this level. I think there's another part of the story, which is that, sexy tech jobs are not the only supply-demand imbalance around talent. And now that we are part of one of the largest staffing companies in the world, we are thinking a lot about where are the other supply and demand imbalances, where are the pain points, where is the bridge between education to employment broken, or where is the cost of that education completely out of whack with the earning potential of that field. I think healthcare is a really interesting one, much, much harder. We would need traditional higher ed to collaborate on that because it would be too hard. I think there's a lot of skills deeper in the technology stack. Everybody likes to talk about, Mark Zuckerberg knowing how to code and learning how to, all this stuff. The reality is for every one of those sexy jobs in Silicon Valley where somebody, codes in a ball pit, right, while listening to heavy metal, there's like 1,000 jobs of people working to make sure that our basic infrastructure of banking and utilities and insurance and government actually works. And that is the real mega trend in technology, is that we are seeing a complete shift in how people think about that technology, how they finance those technologies, how they build for the future. And it's such a huge opportunity right now.
Thank you. So as you look to the future, we've heard about the importance of talent in attracting businesses, and certainly we're thrilled to have attracted yours.
Mm-hmm.
What advice do you have for this community in Scottsdale as we look to the future to continue to make ourselves attractive to business?
I think you've got a great start, first off. I would say the number one thing is don't follow just the very top headlines. Really look at the numbers, look at the data of where the action is. You are very lucky here in that you have a ton of top world-class companies who have locations here. And I think that is such a great start to say, how do we make this place not just attractive for new businesses or new industries, how do we make this an attractive place for those companies to grow? You know, and not just a little bit of growth, like geometric growth. How do we get them to triple their presence here, quadruple their presence here? Because every company is asking these questions. Where do we find the talent? How do we make sure that they have a good standard of living wherever they are? How do we make sure they want to stay there? And how can we invest for the long term? And you already have a head start over most of the metropolitan areas in the US. And so play to those strengths, look at the data, and then also think about the ways that you know, the existing talent infrastructure is not quite where it needs to be. How can we make it easier? How can we make this a place for a young person to come who, you know, how can we make this a place where, oh, you want a road to opportunity, come to Scottsdale, you can buy a house, you can have a great six-figure job, and you never have to worry about anything again, right?
Absolutely.
That's got to be the pitch.
Scottsdale.
That was, I mean, you were telling me before we got on stage, that was your story when you first came here, right?
That's exactly right.
And I know that story gets repeated all over, and I think part of the obligation is you had that, and you were very fortunate to be in a generation where the macro economy worked, the growth, the demographic trends in this area worked. How do we make sure that that promise is continued for the next generation? You know, that is the secret, and it's not going to be one silver bullet. It's going to be a lot of little steps by everybody in the community asking things like, are we making sure that the opportunities for these jobs are available to this community, right? Are we making sure that we are investing properly so that we can have not the same talent shortage 5 years from now that we have today? Or are we still trying to solve for this quarter's problem? I think I see that a lot of the times with companies is that everybody is so trapped on this short term that you keep creating the problems that you wish you didn't have today, tomorrow. You know, a great classic thing is every company we talk to says, oh, we have such a talent problem, but the most pressing one that we need to solve first is the number of senior managing engineers that we have in our organization. Okay, well, I can't really help you with that because I need a time machine to do that. You're probably just going to have to pay a lot of money to bribe people to come here and do that. But how are you making sure that your mid-level engineers are being trained up so they can take on those roles? How many internships and junior level roles do you have in your organization where you're building loyalty and building a set of processes and systems that can scale so that in 5 years you're not even thinking about this? You have an abundance of people who can take on those mid-level and leadership roles. This is the kind of long-term thinking that I think business used to do a lot more of. And I think it's really, if we see the amazing people, the amazing success stories in our current economy, things like Amazon, it's all about thinking for the long term. It's all about getting out of this cycle. That's really the best arbitrage that's left. And I think that's true in the talent ecosystem, just like everywhere else.
Great advice. So our time is almost up. What final thoughts would you like to leave with our group?
Well, I think, you know, the one thing I will say is that we love working with the community. We love innovating. We're not done. So you heard me talk a lot about, you know, software engineering and data science. If you have those needs, we have an incredible small and growing team here that would love to talk to you. But I think more importantly, if you have big, meaty problems that we're not even thinking about yet or we might not know to think about, reach out, because that's where, you know, if we can be helpful, great. If we can be helpful and build something directly for you, that makes us even happier. And I think there's a lot of opportunities that we're just scratching the surface of right now, but we need partnership because we can't identify the next supply and demand imbalance if we don't have the support and information and insight from you who are experiencing those imbalances firsthand.
Thank you so much. Thank you for choosing Scottsdale, and thank you for joining us this morning, Jake.
Anytime. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nicely done.
Well, that was a tremendous conversation, and really want to thank Jake again. It's inspirational almost as you think about coming from where you were with an education that was maybe misapplied at the beginning and maybe in a down economy, to have that kind of initiative in your own mind as to how to meet that need for that education and re-education, something that we've talked about here an awful lot. And during those times, a lot of people, even in the loss of a job, we're not trained for the jobs that were going to become available. And I think that recognition and the follow through on that is inspiring, and I want to congratulate you on that. You know, so please give another round of applause to Jeff Schwartz. You know, on your way out today, please take an economic development annual update. Be out on the counter there for you, but go ahead. Some of those stats that you might have missed, yeah, you'll have some refresher points on that. You know, and one thing I really would like to say too, and I want to thank Rob Millar and the entire economic development team for the work that they've done on a continuing basis here in keeping our economy, and it really are actually the regeneration of our economy years ago, but keeping it on track and growing in a healthy kind of way, just the way we want to see it. So we look forward to seeing you on December 7th for the Cure Corridor. There'll be some additional news, but it's more focused obviously on the bioscience and biotechnical and the healthcare sciences. But nevertheless, it's a great gathering with a lot of great information and a lot of growing interest. So excuse me, thank you for joining us this morning, and have a wonderful day.